My name is Nichelle Whitney. I'm a senior at Indiana University, Bloomington, and I am studying human biology with a concentration on human health and disease. I think that the segregation on campus is self segregation, as in to say that we do choose to segregate ourselves, but I think this self segregation is an unspoken tradition just because it's kind of embedded in our culture, right? I think that we do a better job of mixing and mingling with different races and ethnicities, but I don't think we do the best job. I think that for those integrations that do happen, it's because of comfort levels based on personal things, not necessarily based on race. Do I think there should be more integration? Yes. But I'm not really sure if that's going to be likely or if that's going to happen within the next 10 or 15 years. And I think that one of the biggest responsibilities that we have right now is changing the rhetoric of our generation because with the way that we speak about things, even if it's not intentional or intended to be malicious, it can come off that way. So, for example, the Michael Brown case or the Eric Garner case, a lot of African Americans right now are in the mind frame of America doesn't want us here or they don't want us to succeed. Well, when you think about they, who are you saying? Indirectly, you're isolating white people, right? And my take on is that we're not fighting white people. We're not fighting any group of people when we talk about racism in America. We're actually fighting whiteness, which is a principle, and it's an institutionalized thing, and the language that we use kind of blocks us from seeing that.
My name is Chesley Swan. I'm a sophomore studying public policy analysis. So coming to IU, I saw there's a lot of self-segregation. I think that's the tradition at IU. You have the black stuff, the black parties, the black this and that. Then you have the white organizations, the whites, this and that. So it's a lot of self-segregation, and I think that plays a major part. And it's not really based on the current students here, but what's been passed on from upperclassmen.
Hi, my name is Alex Crow. I'm a sophomore at Indiana University, and I'm studying finance and economic consulting. And to answer the question, do I think race is based on tradition or self-segregation? I would say it's very much self-segregation. And the reason for that being, I think if it was based on tradition, it would be there would be even the minimal type mixing that goes on wouldn't really be happening. I know way back in the 60s or whatever, or even sooner than that, there was a lot of racism, and so any mixing that went on whatsoever would be very, very frowned upon. But today, I mean, personally, I have, some friends that aren't just white, and it's definitely not frowned upon in any way whatsoever. And I really just think that it's more self-segregation just because you're more comfortable with, people who you're more similar to. So.
My name is Leah Johnson. I am a junior at Indiana University, majoring in journalism and minoring in African American African diaspora studies. When I think about the question whether racial segregation here is some sort of unspoken tradition or just self-imposed, I think it's a little bit of both. I think in a lot of ways you stick to what you know, right? Like you hang out with people and you stick to communities that you understand because that's where you feel the most comfortable a lot of times. But I think in another way, being a minority student and going to a predominantly white institution, that does kind of come with the territory, is that there's going to be certain environments and certain events and experiences that you won't be able to permeate just because of the nature of who you are and what you look like. And it's not something you want to happen necessarily, but it's something that does happen because it's just kind of inherent in the fabric of our country. So I think it's self-imposed, but I also think it's kind of accidental.
Do I think that Indiana University attempts to address diversity? Yes, they have programs that address diversity, and they have a good number of them in my opinion. So like they have the groups program that brings in diverse populations. They have Hudson Holland. They bring in diverse populations. 21st Century Scholars. They bring in diverse populations. We have events like the Unity Summit that happens every year. It's been happening consistently for the last 10 to 15 years. and that is really a catalyst for social interaction across racial groups. Even with the production that I'm in, the emergent theater production, we have a very diverse cast, and with this cast, we talk about a lot of social injustice issues, and we build um, bridges to close the gaps, right? I don't think diversity, in a sense, is lacking here at IU because no one person here is the same. And so we literally have diverse religions, we have diverse races, we have diverse ethnicities, we have diverse SES status, we have diverse sexual identities. So it's very, very diverse, right? The problem I feel that we have as an institution is really promoting and encouraging inclusion. So you bring these people here and then you let them go, or they have nowhere to feel at home, or they have nowhere to feel like they belong, or what they say has value, right? So when I think about the international students that come to IU for education, they're housed all in one area. They're housed either all in the same dorm or all in the same apartment complex, and they're rarely ever forced to integrate with American culture, which in a sense robs us, right? Because there's so much that us as Americans can learn from international students, from business trades to economic development to, I don't know, academia support. There's just so much that can be offered, but we never interact with them, and they rarely ever interact with us too. So I think that although IU has on paper this beautiful, elaborate plan for diversity, they really need to address inclusion and retention, because it's one thing to get you here, but there is a reason why a lot of people leave.
So I think the administration has done a lot really with the creation of DEMA. I think that's a really progressive program, a progressive office that's been making strides here on this campus, but I think there's more to be done. I think that they have programs, but they don't have solid curriculum-based long-term goals that can extend, that can really create a place where people can have that good, solid discussion about race, about ethnicity, about the issues that you may have with somebody else. So we have good programs, good turnout for those programs, but how do we extend this to make it a more impactful and more lasting change?
I think one thing that Indiana University and specifically the Kelly School kind of did to force, or not force, but encourage, diverse mingling would be to kind of set up projects that I had to do in Kelly to show us how important diversity is and how the benefits of it and how much nicer it can be. And by doing projects on finding the importance of diversity, kind of saw how good it could be, and just kind of encourage kind of more some intermingling than would have otherwise.
So does the university promote integrating people, or like making these spaces less I don't know, segregated or whatever? Here's the thing. I think the university likes to say that they do those things. I think they like to put on the face like they're doing those things, but in reality, the programs that are the most effective aren't university programs. They're programs that happen because organizations have decided to collaborate, or because of work that happens in DEMA, or the Unity Summit. That was a really good example I just heard. So I think but those things all come from a singular person. Like, that's not a university wide mandate. So no, the university doesn't do a great job at it, and I don't really know how hard they try, honestly, because when you have people here doing the work, when you have people here trying to push forward, you don't really support them in those efforts, I think, a lot of times. So that's just another occasion where people who are making strides towards integrating these spaces, they feel marginalized by the people who are supposed to be doing that, if that makes any sense. So no, they don't really do a great job, but they are trying.
I think my experience at IU has been very different from the average Black student's experience. Um, Sometimes I feel privileged in that way, and then other times I almost feel like, not that I feel bad, but it's just kind of like I wish more Black students can experience IU like I have, right? So I came from a high school, and my entire life I lived in inner city neighborhoods, very urban development. My high school was majority African American, um, but we did have a large number of white students as well. And even in high school, I engaged with students of all colors. And it's not to say that I don't see you for color, because I do. And when you look at me, I expect you to see me as a black woman. But those racial barriers did not stop me from interacting with people. So when I got to college, I mean, I love people in general, so I was okay with branching out and being uncomfortable. I have had best friends that have been white. I have best friends that have been black. I have friends that are from all different racial backgrounds. But I must be honest and say that as a black student, it's fairly hard at IU to stay afloat, and not only stay afloat academically, but on the social platform as well. I also joined a sorority my junior year of college. With my sorority sisters, 85% of them are white. Another small portion are Jewish. Another small portion are Asian. You have atheists. You have Christians. There are only 2 black women in the sorority. There are maybe 2 Latinas in the sorority. Maybe 5 to 10 Asian descent in the sorority. And that makes it really hard to have discussions about Michael Brown issues, right? Some of my sorority sisters, they don't understand that they benefit from white privilege. And then although that is not meant to say that they are bad people, it's just that that's something that you have to understand when you're navigating through spaces and through worlds where you are involved with minority groups, right? So it's challenging. Sometimes I feel like I am the black mom in the group who's always on them about stuff, and I am, because I want to see them succeed, and I want to see them, hold on to the values that our founders set. But it's really a challenge being in a white culture community at a primarily white institution with a white sorority, and it's intended to be an international sorority, but the demographic makeup is predominantly Caucasian. It's just hard to deal with that. So that's my struggle right now, is figuring out how, as a black woman, do I maintain my identity. Not to say that they're ripping it from me, but to make sure that I'm just as stern as I am with them as I would be in a black community, or just as comfortable with them as I would be in a black community or another minority community, just because there are so many stigmas and stereotypes that come along with being a black woman, and then you put that into a room full of 140, 135 white women, and you have to be able to balance that. So I think that IU needs to do a better job of training their student organizations, especially sorority and fraternity life, about diversity and inclusion and what that means, and how you should make sure that you're actively recruiting diversity, but at the same time retaining an inclusive environment for everyone.
So my experience here, I'm from Washington D.C., which can be at times a really racially charged city. But coming here, it was different. I've had some racial slurs thrown at me from some members of our community, but really I saw that that's a need for growth and really a place for a change. So coming here, I saw that a lot of black students didn't know about civil rights history. I didn't know about how we've come thus far in this country in terms of civil rights. So I started the NAACP, or I reestablished the chapter here to really inform students of how the civil rights era, how people fought for you, and how we should really try to increase diversity in all aspects here on this campus. That is always a continued fight. So coming here, I saw the whole self-segregation thing. People kind of kept themselves, like the black students went to this, the white students went to that, and that was just an unspoken rule. But the whole thing as students, as faculty, as administrators, is to challenge that status quo. That we feel comfortable. It's all about getting outside of your whole comfort zone. And I think that's the biggest part, being bold enough to step outside that comfort zone and really going places, doing things with other people, trying new food, because you'll be surprised at what you actually like. So we should really have programs where we travel, try different stuff, and just really extend the conversation forward. It's not just about having one program, but having more. So that's been my experience. I've seen some successful programs by DEMA, and some other organizations, but there really needs to be more here. to really affect the change that you want. Because these people will be world leaders. From Indiana University, will be world leaders who make decisions that will be so impactful to this world. So we need people who understand about diversity, understand about how people are different, but how we are really similar and we have similar goals in life. So that's been my experience here at IU.
Hi, my name is Rosariano. I'm a sophomore here in IU Bloomington, and I'm Mexican Latino. One of the big things, actually, race has played a big role since I've been here. Ever since I was a freshman, I joined this Latino frat named Lambda Usa Amanda, and I've only been associated with really Latinos and people around my race ever since. I go to La Casa a lot, and all I see are people around my race, and so Latinos, Latinas. I have associated a lot with like African American, and Black too, but it not really. I felt like my world as a Latino has grown. Like I feel like it's a big portion because I only hang out with them. For hanging out with other ethnic groups like majority white, I really haven't hung out with them that much. So I guess the division is actually pretty big when it comes down to it, because I'm only hanging out with these certain groups. And the thing is, it's been happening for over a year since I came to IU and joined. So in my experience, it played a huge part because all my friends, all the experience I have since I came here, and who I live with are all Latinos, and so if I had to say there was a divide in IU, I would probably agree.
I think that being white has certainly helped me in the sense that it's given me kind of a base. I wouldn't say necessarily being white, but my family and all my older friends have kind of taken the path of business. I'm a business major, and so I've taken the path of business before me, and it really given me a ton of guidance along the way. It gave me a ton of connections along the way that has helped me tremendously in the business field. And I think that non-white races, whatever they may be, who haven't had as much the family history in the field that they're going into, don't really have the advice and don't have the connections that I was afforded, which helps out absolutely tremendous about in school.
I think being black at IU and being black at any predominantly white institution is going to be a really unique experience. I think it's hard a lot of times because you do feel alienated in these spaces where you're supposed to feel comfortable. You get put in classrooms where a lot of times you're going to be the only black kid in the room, and people are going to look at you and ask you, like they're going to look at you when the N-word comes up, like when the conversation about thugs come up, or when you're talking about Ferguson, or these uncomfortable racial subjects. Everybody's going to look at you and expect you to be the spokesperson for the entire race. And it's an especially interesting angle because me as a journalist, I have to, I tell the stories of these people. I tell the stories of my people, better yet. And I think a lot of times people look at me and expect me to have all the answers in journalism classes a lot, especially in then AAADS classes where there are a lot of black people. It's kind of, that's the space where I feel the most comfortable because it's a community of like-minded individuals where I don't have to explain myself. I don't ever have to prove myself to these people because as they understand, I deserve to be here just as much as anybody else. But I think that is something that in other communities we still haven't broken through, if that makes any sense. So that's always really hard. Last year, NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, took on this project called Black at IU, and it was really just to archive the Black Hoosier experience. We took pictures with statements written on boards about what it was like being Black at IU, and a lot of times, a lot of people's responses were just that they felt marginalized, just that they felt like they were being put on the outskirts of the communities where they were supposed to be accepted. And I think it makes it really hard for us to have a conducive learning environment when things are like that. But socially, to go back to the first question, socially it makes it especially hard. So when we talk about like self-imposed segregation, it's not necessarily self-imposed, but the fact of the matter is we don't really have choices. Like huge organizations on this campus like IUDM are not spaces where black people are often comfortable. So then what do? You create environments, and this is what black people we've had to do our entire time in this country. We've always had to create spaces and environments and ways for us to express ourselves because we weren't allowed into the majority. So maybe we do segregate ourselves, but that's because we have found a community of individuals who get it. They just understand. Do I like being the only black person in a classroom? Most of the time, no. But it's a position that I take really seriously because it also allows me the opportunity to educate people who probably aren't going to be educated about this stuff a lot of times. And many people haven't been in classes with black people for their entire lives, which I obviously have because, hey, I'm that black kid. So, like, I don't know. I look forward to it in a lot of ways, but then also it's kind of discouraging. So then when the university says they're making efforts to increase diversity presence on campus, and then I'm still looking around and I'm still the only black kid, like, how do you justify that? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I'm waiting for the day, and it probably won't happen while I'm here. Probably won't happen while I'm in grad school, but I'm waiting for the day when my sister goes to college, when she can go to a great state school like IU and not have to worry about the things that I have to worry about.